Hi, I'm Alexis Carpenter, the founder and CEO of Raising Hope LLC, and also the host of Bold Voices in Business. And this platform is brought to you to bring employers and employees together to open up compassionate conversations for more understanding and relationship building. So thank you so much for joining me for another episode on BVIB. I have the pleasure of meeting with Lauren Eckhardt today, and I am so excited for people to get to know you. So why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. And thanks, Alexis, for having me on this. I think this is going to be one of the best podcast series ever. So I'm really excited to be a guest. Um, so I'm Lauren Eckhardt. I'm the owner and founder of Burning Soul Press and Burning Soul Collective. Our mission is to help people turn their life journeys into powerful books and inspiring movements. And I'm also an author. I'm a ghostwriter. I do book coaching throughout the program. And then we also help people publish their books. So we do a little bit of everything. And I always say books are my world. Stories are my world for that reason.
Oh, I love that. And I have the pleasure of having you as my book coach. And this has turned into such a beautiful friendship too. So I love that even more. And that's why I'm so much more excited about this episode. And okay, so we'll dive right in. And why don't you start by telling your bold voice in business moment? So that can be any type of experience in life, business, um, just anything. Like what is that moment for you that was kind of like the catalyst to pushing you into the direction that you're in now?
Yeah, so there's always a little bit of backstory, right? So I knew since I was 6 years old, I really wanted to be an author. Went down the songwriting path for a little bit, did, a lot of poetry, that sort of thing. But stories were always at the heart of everything I wanted to do. Started off as a fiction writer. And, the thing is that I don't think I owned my voice throughout most of my life in general. So I did not step into that path for many different reasons, partly because you just feel like you have to go down the path that's expected of you, right? And being an author is not one that makes money. It's not smart. You have to be better prepared for your life journey. So I went down, the HR path for many, many, many years. And it was great because I feel like every path, even if you take detours, it's always going to teach you something, no matter what. And for HR, I really developed a passion for people's strengths, really helping them identify those, step into them. And for me, it was always about encouraging people to go down the path that best aligns with them versus what's the next step in corporate. So it kind of went against what I was supposed to be helping people with in that corporate environment. But it was one of those moments when, I was doing different industries in HR for 12 years. And I'm like, this is just this pattern you get on, it's like I was getting promotion after promotion after promotion, but it wasn't really fulfilling me. And now it fulfills some people, but it doesn't fulfill me. And it was that recognition that no matter how many promotions I had, no matter how many raises I had, it was never enough. I was always planning for the next. And I was like, what's actually going to make me happy? What will that look like? And it goes back to, so much of what we know as little kids that I wish our parents would have honored a little bit more, like, hey, there's a reason why you have this passion. Like, there's a reason why you have the skill, this talent, go after it.
Yeah.
Um, and it actually took the birth of my kids for me to recognize that that's what I want them to see in themselves. I want them to know their strengths, like I've been teaching other people to help connect with. I want them to know what they're talented in and have these big dreams and not be afraid to chase them. To not be told it won't earn you money or it's not the right path to go down. And so seeing this path of these cycles of never being fulfilled and then knowing I have to be fulfilled, that's when I finally used my voice to quit my job, which was hard because it gave up a big salary and a lot of other perks. Like my car and my phone, everything was tied into work. Which feels, now looking back, I'm like, wow, they really had me. Like they really had me. And that's what happens. And, really to prove to my kids that, you can tell your kids all the things in the world, but until you actually step into it with your actions, it's never going to make the point that you want to land with them. So that was when I said, okay, I'm willing to take this risk and pursue my dreams by fully focusing on writing my books, becoming an author finally after decades of dreaming about it, and then, creating a business as a result.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful. And you have little writers. Like, that is my favorite part because I do too, and I love that so much for
But
our littles, like really tapping into that creativity. So, oh,
for
I'm
all those listening, Alexis and I will be creating a writers camp for littles in the future.
Yes. Oh my God. Right. I feel like that is just so meant to be like, anyway. Yeah. I love that so much. I love your story. I really do. And I didn't know that you were in HR though. So, that's interesting because that's very like, that's my background too.
Yeah.
So I totally get it, right? But it really does give this passion for people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I love that so much. And I'm so glad, not only for myself, but for everybody else that I've gotten to meet in the community, that you followed that because people like you are so needed. And you're so different than the normal industry too, and that's what I love about you so much, and I love the company, and I love the people that you employ. Like, everything about you is so pleasant, and your mission and the people that you hired really drive that home too. So
Alexis, that
great
means so much.
job.
And I just want to actually point that out because it's been something that I've had to recognize as part of this journey is that at first I'm like, anytime someone would compliment me with like helping them write their book, I'd be like, no, 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 this is all you. I'm just here. It's all you. But finally I had a wake up call with that with and when enough people tell you that after a period of being in this, it's kind of amazing. It's like, okay, they would have written their book at some point, no matter what. Like, I truly believe that. But if you're able to help them reach their dreams, their goals a little bit earlier, it's that whole like ripple effect, right? Like if you didn't take that risk to do what you want, that you feel called to do, that you feel passionate about, how that affects every single other person that comes into your sphere, like Alexis with everything you're doing with this, like it's just the start of that ripple and how it just helps people bit by bit. And I think that's what's so beautiful to take a moment to recognize because if we're just going, 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 not having those pauses, I don't think we'll actually ever recognize the differences we are making by every action we take day in and day out. And we have to be able to honor that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Even confidence, like the
Yeah,
confidence level, like, yeah, I'm like, I could talk to you about this all day long because you
let's do
already
it.
like, you know how, just, and I'll get back on track in just a second, but like even thinking about the journey that I've been on with you, and just like full body feeling like, wow, I feel this shift in myself, and I it's just, it's so powerful. And it's like, it's one of those feelings that I don't think I've ever really felt before, like that I've given myself a power by writing, and
Yeah.
that you help kind of, you really do like keep me aligned, and you keep me like going like, okay, what are we doing this for? Like, even when I'm like, no, I want to throw in the towel, like I'm done, but like just not being able to give up because there are so many more people that really just need these words. And so, again, like, hats off to you because the platform is just, it's beautiful, and the community that you've created is just, oh, yeah, I could literally talk about this all day long.
Thank you for that. I think that's one of the consistent beauties with this too that I've been able to witness is that, and that's why I encourage people, like whether you want to publish a book someday or not, like not to necessarily think of yourself as like, I'm going to go down this author path, but you've seen like just even the power in writing your own story and what that does for you, not in just like between you and the pages, but every single client we've had come through, we see this, they start writing their book and literally the rest of their life changes too, because there's something that's opening up and up in them and they're saying yes to more opportunities and they're going after dreams that they I feel like maybe have laid dormant for years, like I always feel like they're there and it takes a little bit to actually knock them awake. And that's what happens with the book writing or the story writing process. So even if you never want to publish a book or release it, like just take the time to start writing your story because it will do wonders for your life.
Oh, 1,000%.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Like, My question for you, so now we're gonna go through kind of like rapid fire. You don't have to answer them quickly, but I'll go through, like, there's only like 3 questions. Okay. So, like I told you. Okay, we're gonna start with the big one first because I really am like I really want to hear this story. So,
When you prefaces the big one, I'm like, oh boy.
yeah. So, if your business journey was made into like a New York Times bestseller, what would be the dramatic climax and why?
Okay, so we're gonna go deep right off.
Yeah.
So okay. It would probably be where the main character is literally burning down every bridge in her life and rebuilding, but being like going around in circles like a cyclone trying to figure out what she needs to collect from all of the ashes of everything that she burned down, to rebuild a brand new city. And in that period, I mean, it's going through a total spiritual reawakening, ditching all beliefs ever in my life, to rebuild, to really break down what was on automatic, like the beliefs, the things we tell ourselves, the way we react. Why am I reacting like that? Why am I thinking like that? Where is that coming from? Is that me, or is it more of what was instilled in me or influenced by my environment? That is rough when you start breaking down like every way you act, everything that you do, and why you think the things you do, and rebuilding that. I mean, that alone is hard. And then through that, going through a divorce, having to, figure out co-parenting and, being a full-time parent on your own half the time, through almost a bankruptcy at the time. The Do I give up this business? Do I not? Um, Talked about employees. We're in a good place now with employees, but there's a period where we had to let go of employees that were not the right fit. And that's, a struggle to do sometimes. So it felt like letting go of everything and having nothing, less than nothing for a period. It got very dark. I had postpartum depression really badly after my second was born. Had horrible thoughts during that period. During this period, this dramatic climax, it was the same thing. All these dark thoughts came back again. And this is not something I usually talk about, but it's because I felt like I had nothing for a long period. Um, and it's easy to say, instead of rebuilding, just give it up, give it all up. Um, but it always came back to what do I feel fully called to do? Why am I living this life? What do I want to be able to do? If I dialed it all in, I would definitely not make an impact. Everything I've been working hard towards, it gets reversed at that point, essentially, right? Because it doesn't matter anymore. So it really goes back to what is that impact, that difference I want to be able to make in this world? And no matter if everything is going right for you or not, are you still willing to work for that? Are you still willing to leave those prints on the world and make some sort of difference? So even when it got dark and I thought about this is it, that's what kept me going. That no matter what, that's what I would always strive towards. And that's what brought me out of it and into where I was. I mean, it was a very, very long, tough journey, probably the hardest moments I've ever been through in my life. Um, but that would be it for this book.
Woo. Okay. Have you started writing this book?
I mean, my memoir, it's in
Yeah.
process right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, I
my
get to talk
gosh.
about all of it. And then in it will be some writings that I wrote during that time, which are very dark writings. And it's interesting because I'm in so much more of a positive place now, even though things still aren't perfect, but I'm in a more positive place. And so it's funny because I noticed my memoir took this like crazy turn, right? Where it was like super dark because I was writing it during that darkest period. And now I'm like, oh, it doesn't need to be that dark, but I'm going to keep some of those dark writings in there just to share like, this is where my mind was. And it's not pretty, it's ugly,
Yeah.
but this is raw and this is what we go through. And sometimes we have these thoughts that we're battling. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I love that answer. So I'm like, let me ask that same question like 100 times now. Um, wow,
That's a
like that
great question, Alexis.
is that was like and it was like beautifully stated too. Like God, well, obviously you have a way with words, right? um,
Usually better writing than speaking, so thank you.
yeah. Oh my gosh, but no, that was great. That was such like a visual and honestly super relatable. Like, yeah, can totally relate to so many aspects of that. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. That was vulnerable and very beautiful and just anyway, it was just great. So I appreciate that so much. Um, okay, so my next question to you is I'm like, I lost my original question that I wanted to ask. So, okay. So what is the biggest oops moment in your career and what surprise lesson did it teach you?
I mean, I've had a lot of oops. So, like a lot. I'm thinking from corporate, from entrepreneurship, there are a lot there. I would say one of the biggest ones, and I'm going to take it from entrepreneurship because it was in the very, very beginning, was it's easy sometimes like to see these big revenue opportunities and think, oh my goodness, this is great. This is what we need, especially like for those who are just starting off in entrepreneurship. It's easy to get one of the best things to do is to get involved in other communities with entrepreneurs. Like you will find your people, it will be amazing. But it's easy to get caught up into, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I should be doing that, or I should be focused on this. I did better in the very beginning when I was just focused more on the heart and the soul behind it. And once I started thinking about, oh, I need to have all of these different opportunities or, the ascension model in place and all of this, I started getting off track from what I really felt called to do and why I felt called to run the business. And so we had this opportunity early on with a fairly big coaching group. It was huge. And they were like, we want all of our people to become authors and we want them to go through your program. And I'm like, I've been hearing about this. Like these partnerships are key, to your revenue and growing your business and all of that. And I'm like, yes, let's do it. And I really loved what they stood for because a lot of it was bringing light into the world, which is what I'm a big fan of. And, what we try to do through our stories that we share. But what ended up happening is that they wanted control over so much. Like they controlled how much they were getting of our program. They controlled the sales calls, where then we would get people in and they were told the wrong things. So they were made promises that we said were never part of our program. But this group was so focused on sales, sales, sales that they were promising things that had nothing to do with our program.
Oh,
And it was heartbreaking because then you feel like you are tied into that and then almost that you're out of integrity. That was a big learning experience. And now I'm like, well, duh, Lauren, of course you don't give up all of that control, and let someone else control the sales or what's told or, anything like that. But at the time, it just seemed like such this ideal opportunity. And then as the months progressed, a lot of things ended up coming out with this coaching program. They're no longer in existence because a lot of bad things came out. And I'm like, okay, now it's not that partnerships are necessarily bad, but if you do them again, you need to actually fully do research. You want to make sure that people are fully in alignment and that you need to own as much of that as possible because it's your brand on the line. So that's very, very important. And when we look at even having affiliates on now, like we're really big and like we need to know who these people are and what they stand for because we have to make sure it's in pure alignment. And we have to be able to give them the exact messaging and everything else. So that was a huge oops for our business in a big way because we were battling these, being wrapped up into this company as though we were an extension of it and they were totally different and operating differently from us. So
oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah. That right there hit the nail on the head. So many like I've seen this like in my corporate position where we've taken on clients, and yeah, again, sales is like certain sales, they'll be like, yeah, yeah, we're yes people. Like we'll say yes to everything. And then it's kind of like the aftermath of like, but no, like realistically, we can't do that. So yeah, that's such a valid point. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
and you want to talk about, I mean, you do so much with culture, Alexis. Like, that's a big one. Like, their culture, the more we learned into it, was totally different than ours, I mean, like, in not a good way, like, total misalignment. And I wish I really dug into that, interviewed, their executive board, some of the people who work for them, to really identify that because I mean, you have to have similar cultures to be able to maintain, especially the people that you're bringing in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. That right there is key. I mean, you lose people by having the wrong clients. I mean, again, that's like a whole I could go
Yeah.
on for days on that, but I'm like, yeah, I mean, that could literally mess up your entire brand. You could lose
Yeah.
some of your top performers because they don't align with it. And when you
Mhm.
hire people, you're like, okay, no, they're because they align with my values, they align with my mission, they align with the vision. And then you bring in that outside and it's like that's not what we talked about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and then on the flip side too, even like with the people that they are bringing in and who they are selling this program to. I mean, with you being a part of our Soulful Author Journey program, you know how like protective of I am of
Yeah.
that group, especially now where I'm like, we need to have people who are on very similar missions who, just we have to have that alignment to maintain the integrity, the effectiveness of the group. And so who comes in, like, I need to be able to filter that now and not ever rely on another organization to do that. So I just think it all goes back to, that ownership of what's important to you and doing what you can to protect that because it's all a reflection of your brand and what you stand for.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Mm.
I'm going to give one more tip on that too, is
Yeah.
also not just getting not getting scared to saying yes to everything. It's okay to say no to people. Like it's okay to say, "Hey, you know what? Like this is not the right opportunity." Like and we can do that in such a loving way, but like it's okay to say no. Yeah, I feel like we've been so conditioned for so long to be like yes, 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 yes. Like, "Oh no, we can make it work." But naturally, like it's not going to. There's going to be so much tension and resistance and so say no. Like the power of no is really big. I'm like learning that these days because I was always a yes person, but I'm like, oh wow, like that no really aligned. Like I don't feel bad about it. I was able to like be loving about it and maybe direct them somewhere else. But yeah, it's okay to say no and quite necessary.
Well, and the
Okay.
other thing with the no thing that I love, because I agree, that's a huge part of like the past few years I've had to learn how to do. It's boundaries. It's really setting those boundaries and honoring that and being okay with it. And you can get yourself so worked up on the front end of how are they going to respond to this? And you're so nervous about it. But when you actually deliver it, they're like, okay, because you set a boundary.
Yeah.
And that's huge to recognize. And I think the more and more you do it, the more you're like, it doesn't matter what their reaction is. This is what I need to do to again protect my space or my sanity in some ways.
1,000%. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I totally, totally agree. Oh man, boundaries, setting that expectation is important. Okay, I'll have one more question. Although I literally could talk to you all day long. Like, I'm like, I hate to even like have only one more question. Okay, so the last question is how did an experience with an unfavorable oh wait, I think I did I just ask that? No. Okay. How did an experience with an unfavorable employee or employer act as a catalyst to I feel like I just asked this.
No, not with the employer. I think you're good, right?
Okay, I don't so
I think we
real
talked
life
about it in
people.
the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, this is real life. Like literally, this is how my brain works. Okay. How did an experience with an unfavorable employer act as a catalyst for your passion to improve workplace culture and communication?
Yeah. Um, so it was my last corporate job. And it was, I mean, overall a very, very good company. I was doing HR there, but it was very much fostered towards who is going to fit into the boxes there. Anyone
Mhm.
who falls outside of that cannot be a part of it. And so I felt very much like an outcast, even in creating relationships. They had a very clear expectation of like the type of people who belong, um, the way people should react, how they should speak up. And very much at that time, I was not owning my voice. I relied on the crutch of being an introvert. Like that was always my thing. Like I'm an introvert. I just can't do this, which now I don't own in the same way, even though technically I am, but I don't want to use it as a crutch. But at the time, I'm like, I'm an introvert. I'm also a processor. Like, I need time to listen to what someone said, think about it before I give a response. I'm not just going to automatically respond in those sort of settings, let alone in a group setting where everyone's sitting around a awkward conference table. Like, I'm just not going to be the first one that speaks up and says something. I would rather come to the manager or the person afterwards and just have a one-on-one conversation because that's me. Um, but that's not what they expected from every single person. Like it was just, again, a very set expectation of how you needed to be. And so I remember like at one time my boss coming to me and being like, you're not you're not coming off like a team player. And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because you never like offer in the meetings to help or take on these projects or anything else." I'm like, "No, but I come to you afterwards because I'm just not comfortable with speaking up in the group. And like I always think things through. Like, is this the right project for me? Can I do a good job? Is it aligned with my strengths?"
Yeah.
But she's like, "I need you to start speaking up in the meetings." And I'm like, "That's just not me though." Like at the time it wasn't. Today I'm like, I would totally do it. But I was young and um it just I wasn't comfortable with it. And I always think back to that, like how I just felt like such an outcast during that time with friendships there because I just didn't feel like I fit the mold. But I did really good work all the time. Like all of my clients loved me, but none of that counted because I didn't fit what they expected. Um, so so a big thing that I've learned from that is when employees come in, it's really knowing who they are, what they want to do. Like for example, Allison, she came in as our PR person, but she said, "I really want to explore editing." And I'm like, "Great." So we started giving her editing job. And now she does that instead of PR for the most part. It's because she's good at it. She really figured out that's a strength, that's a passion, that's a love of hers. We're really big into, if you need a day off, like take a day off and it's okay because we go through things and things happen in life. And it's owning that and owning who they are. And if they need time to process something before they come to the table, having that time to process before they come to the table. It's honoring them for who they are and not our expectation of who we want them to be. And then I think another part of that is being able to, really find the right fit for people based off of their strengths and not just trying to shove them into a hole, um, or a very specific mold of who we want them to be.
Yeah. Oh, oh my gosh. Like, I could not agree with you more. I love that you do that. And the fact that you brought her in for something else and you allowed her to grow in a path that was passionate. I- People don't do that. I've seen so many cases of like people being stuck and stagnant in a position because they're like, well, you're good at it. We need you here. But it's like, but you lose that person or they get burnt out and they could be utilized in such a more like compassionate, or that's not the word I'm looking for, but like a more uh productive way,
Yeah.
right? Like they
Yeah.
could lead teams in different ways and then also give somebody else an opportunity to do the job and fall in love with the job that they were doing.
That's
um
awesome.
yeah,
And
oh, I love that so
have
much.
to recognize because like Allison is good at a lot of different things, but it's what she's passionate about that's important to me. And we
Yeah.
still haven't found a PR person, to fill that spot. She still does every now and then when she has free time, but we keep her focused on what she loves to do. Um, and yeah, I just think that's key. It's interesting because on the flip side, I've had an employee in the past where she's like, "I'll do anything. I'll do anything." And I'm like, "I love your excitement for that, but I really need to know what you're passionate about doing. And I need to be able to fully understand your skill set and your strengths. And then all the time she worked for us, I couldn't figure it out, you know? And I think as an employee, you have to be able to own that and speak up and not be afraid to say, this is what I'm really good at, because then you can find that path. And, an employee or employer who's flexible will help you with that. But you have to be able to speak up and be honest about that as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I know we'll have to do a whole nother episode on what that means. Like, how do we find our voice after being shut down for so long, right? Like, I don't want to be the person to ask the stupid question. I don't want to be the person to be the only one in the room to not understand what's happening right now. How do I figure it out on my own? Like I just remember so many meetings, so many moments like that. But you're right. Like, how do we start to help people develop that skill now? Because not every table is going to be the same.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're raising your hand and people aren't listening, then it's probably a really great indicator that you shouldn't be there because it
Yeah.
doesn't align with you. And exploring those things, right? Like, find your passion. Like, what is it that you love? Like, what can you effortlessly do that you're like, oh, I could do this all the time. I could do this all day long, and really discovering that. I don't think people do that enough. Like, get curious, experiment with it. Um, so yeah, I just,
Be afraid to at any age. Like, I think that's one thing too that I'm discovering with people around our age group. It's just that, oh, I should have this figured out by now. But if
mm,
you don't, that's okay. Like, it's better to figure it out now than to never have that opportunity. Because that's like why we were all built. We're all built to be these amazing individuals with different strengths. And that's why, like, even as you're just saying what you're doing or saying, I was thinking back to corporate and being around this conference room and how they just want everyone to be the same. And it's heartbreaking to think about how many individual strengths were being washed out.
yeah,
And then how many people aren't able to fully step into that because of that pressure to be a certain way.
yeah.
And so, like you said, find an environment that allows you to flourish for being you. Don't allow yourself to be, stifled, or speak up and hope that they change the culture or hire Alexis to come in and change the culture.
Totally down for that.
Little plug.
Oh, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, this has been absolutely beautiful. I love every conversation with you. You're literally like one of my favorite humans on this planet. So
Same. I say that all the time about you.
I'm just so glad that you were one of the, like, even in like season one, like I got to get you in here early, like when it's fresh and new and I'm still learning and like trying to figure out like what this process is and kind of going through different questions. And anyway, I loved all of your answers. I think this episode is extremely useful in so many ways and it's so heartfelt. And I just appreciate you showing up the way that you did today. And yeah, so the way that we're going to end this is what is going to be your bold voice in business moment? Like, what is it like? What's the one thing that you're hoping that you're going to do, like for a challenge for yourself to use your voice, I guess?
Yeah. So I think the big thing is I'm really strong with one-on-one and small group, but I want to learn how to lead big group, big
Mm.
conferences, big workshops. It terrifies me. It's nothing that I've really thought I wanted to do before, but I see it coming clearer and clearer in a vision. And again, it goes back to what's that outcome and what's the quickest way to be able to reach that. It's to be able to lead these big conferences, helping people write their life journeys. And a big part I want to do is I'm getting certified with breath work as well to be able to help them get to a piece where they can share those stories. And so I just see myself leading these big groups and having that impact. And I just think of how powerful it would be just to even have one weekend with a big group of people where it's giving them the tools, the strategies, the confidence to fully write their stories and share it maybe just with their families or maybe with the world.
Oh my gosh, I'm on board. Um, I love that so much. Honestly, this just made me think of the retreat that I want to do after the book launch.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a group of 25 women, young and in our age. So maybe you'll see Lauren there. Like, that's gonna be, maybe that could be a conversation that we have. Yeah, right. And what a better way, like launching something so vulnerable that, is just gonna change the trajectory. So yeah, stay tuned, people.
Got a lot of Alexis and Lauren time coming. Some way,
Yeah.
somehow. We know the seeds were planted.
Oh my gosh, like 1,000%. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Lauren. And yeah, this was great.
Yeah.